Welcome. Welcome, beautiful souls, to my home. It's very early. Well, I should say, not really now. I woke up at like 6. I have been waking up so early. It's just not like me. It's interesting. I've been like falling asleep at like 10 or midnight and then waking up at like 6 or 7. Anyway, today in real time is 9:24:24. And I love numerology. I love all that fun stuff. So I forgot to add it together. We can do that later, but if I'm meant to, otherwise we will. But I really just wanted to share with you. Oh, drink some water too. Stay hydrated. September was a doozy. Mm. And in real time, we're in eclipse season. I have to show you something first, though, that I just noticed. So some people go gray and some people get tinsel. Do you see? I have, I combed it over because I wanted to show you guys. You can kind of see there's like little pieces here and there, but my natural color, I haven't colored my hair in over 2 years. And I've been debating whether I wanted to do anything with my hair, but I noticed recently that I have like these kind of tinsely grays coming in, and I remember, oh, you can see them now. Do you see them? Some are kind of gold, some are red, and some are tinsel. So I have no idea what my hair is going to do, but I think it's going to do something really rad. And I remember my mom said something like, oh, you have Aunt Joan's hair, which was my grandma's sister. And I was like, oh, what? And she's like, she had tinsel. We were all jealous because hers was so cool. She had like the coolest hair. So I'm excited to see. I mean, everything else about me is awesome and witchy and cool. I wouldn't be surprised if I end up getting like kind of tinsely hair. Anyway, I apologize for the lighting, but I'm in my oops. I accidentally hit a button. I'm laying on the couch with a blanket. Bubba's cozy. I'm cozy. I'm like, I just realized you can see you can see the gang up there. I got my cards behind me. So the reason why I wanted to share this video with you, I'm feeling choked all of a sudden, is that I know I really promote self-care and being where you are and all that kind of stuff, but there's also I'm only doing this because I'm chilly, not because I'm like meh, like a grump. I'm more like, ugh, I'm chilly. I don't want to put the heat on because it gets too hot. Anyway, off-grid living, off-grid issues. I don't want to say problems because they're just issues. So I have been reluctant to share a lot with you guys because I do feel that sometimes it's better to just kind of leave things as they are and allow them to unfold. Sadly, there were certain things that I really wished would happen before my mom passed over. But now that she's crossed over, it's what I always assumed it was going to be, which is awesome. Get it? Which is awesome. I mean, I'm sure some of my family would be like, you're evil! Like, mom died! How can you say that? Because they're stuck in that, like, that they're never going to see her again, or they're stuck in the, like, whatever. But I'm not. And my mom has been so integral to my growth and my development. And literally, I realized that I had to completely pull away from my blood and bone family to be who I am. I believe that in my 20s, like if I were in my 20s now, I would have had a lot easier time doing that because consciously there's so many people out there like pushing that now. Like when I was growing up, it was like, no, it's family and you stick with your family and they're your family and you blah blah blah. And I was like, but what if I don't feel like they're my family? Like what if I don't feel, I mean, I loved them, but they clearly did not love me. Or they did, but it was conditional. As long as I was being a certain way, then it was okay. But showing my true self, or sorry, I just real I'm like, why is my face so shiny? I'm like, oh yeah, because I put oils on this morning. I didn't get ready. Well, I started to get ready, but it was like, I'm like, I'm not gonna curl my hair and do all that. I'm like, I was going to, but then I was like, nah. Um, because it's more of like a deep thoughts kind of thing. And I wanted to share some exciting things with you guys too. But yeah, I've just been going through a lot of stuff with my family stuff. And the more I'm going through my family stuff, the more I'm letting go and releasing all these old stories that I have about myself, or that others, provided me with. It was kind of like, you look like so and so in the family, you act like so and so in the family, and it was all of a sudden, it was like they just pieced you together, and it's like, bloop, now you're that person. It was just very, very odd, very, very bizarre. And I was watching something recently that I did. I was editing it, and I said something like, something about my mom and being, basically, that my mom chose her religion over me. And I kind of felt like my whole life was like that. Like my friends, my family, it was like, as long as I fit into this mold for them. And the sad thing is some of them, it wasn't their fault, like, especially like friends, Sorry, I'm like, hey, especially friends, because with friends, if you want to be friends with someone, you may not be 100% yourself, right? Or if you like somebody, you may not be 100% yourself because you really like them and you want them to like you. So you morph into what you think that they'll like. I used to joke and say that if you were ever a Friends fan, you'll understand this reference, but I was Fun Bobby. But when I got sober, I wasn't Fun Bobby anymore. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, when I got sober and I got real, it was like, hey, wow, ouch, that hurts. Like, I can't believe you just said that to me. I'm like, well, I mean, we've been friends for years. Like, why, if I can't be honest with you, like, then this isn't really a friendship. This is a praise relationship. As long as I'm praising you, as long as I'm lifting you up, and as long as I'm laughing at your jokes, as long as and it was interesting. A lot of rich people over my life have been drawn to me. Rich, famous people have been drawn to me, and I believe it's because they're seeking that out. They're searching out that validation, but also they're seeking out with love. Thank you, Spirit. They're seeking the validation with love, which they know I will provide. Sorry, I'm going to take my charger off. I'm like, that's why it was like so, I felt like so much energy was coming at me. And like, if it dies, I always feel like if it dies, that's where it's meant to die. A lot of times I'm like just kind of mindless banter. But it's because they were seeking the truth. And that's my job. That's literally my job, is to be a truth seeker, a truth bringer. And that is not easy for some people. The hardest part is when people hire me to help them. And in the beginning, I let things go. I let it go because I know where they are. But when I get to a certain point where I know that they know that what they need to do, but they're just not doing it, that's when I bow out. Because I'm like, you know what? Now it's up to you. Like, now it's on you. Like, you need to, put yourself out there. Like, you need to put yourself in a place. Here, I'll put my hands back there. I'm like, you need to put yourself in a place that's beneficial and healthy to you. The what ifs, the woulda, coulda, shouldas, it's like, I have love for everybody all day long, but I also am just, it's just my job. It's literally my job to tell the truth. And it's your free will to unsubscribe, unfollow, not talk to me, that's your free will. Hold on. Ooh, I had to just fight off some kind of dark energy that was like trying to beat me up. I'm used to it. It doesn't bother me anymore. That's the thing. I'm like, you can't, it's like, it doesn't bother me. And you can't, it's not going to do anything. Like, you can hate on me, you can, whatever, but it's not going to affect me. Especially because right before I started this, I was like, hey, Archangel Michael, I'm like, make sure to protect me and my people right now. So it's interesting because I really wanted to do a different video right now, but I feel like this is the shadow that wants to be heard. And for some of you, I feel like the reason why you're struggling, or like, for some of you, I feel like you've been using your magic and manipulation for so long. This is me who did it too, right? Because it takes one to know one kind of thing. I think some of you did it for so long that you literally don't know the difference. Oh shit. I'm like, she's getting real. Like, you didn't, like, it's almost like Spirit's trying to say, hey, and I know that that we know that you know what to do. You know what you need to do. You know what you need to do. But it's hard to watch sometimes. I've been there. I understand it. It is not easy. Assimilating to something, oh, here we go. I was wondering when this was going to come out. So for those of you who have never seen Forrest Gump, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to see Forrest Gump. If not the movie, at least go to YouTube and download a scene of Forrest Gump so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But I just saw the shorts. I forgot about this. I'd seen it before, but I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So a lot of people may not know this, but the little boy who plays young Forrest Gump, they were like, wow, he really got that accent down. Like, they did a really good job. And Tom Hanks set the record straight, and he's like, no, he goes, he impersonated the director, like saying to him, you got to get this kid to talk, to figure out how to talk like you, because I guess he had something going on, an accent or something, and he's like, okay. And so he brings the kid actor in, and the kid starts talking, and he wants to get to know him, so he starts asking him about his family, because he's from the area where they're filming the movie, and I think it was his first movie. And he said that he said, what does your dad do for a living? And he's like, my daddy makes grease. And he was like, okay. And he's like, oh. And he's like, what do you mean? And he's like, for lipsticks. And he was like, he looked at the director and was like, I'm going to sound like him. He's like, first of all, it'll be so much easier. The kid can just be himself. He just has to act, and he's like, I love you, Jenny, whatever. Like, he was just being himself. I mean, I'm sure they gave him some direction or whatever, but Tom Hanks was a fucking genius. He's like, no, I will emulate him. So he emulated him. Right? Because he's trying to show how this little boy came to be, who he came to be, which, by the way, interesting, that same thing with Forrest Gump. I never ever got that until now. That if you remember in the movie, that he ends up in places with like really famous people, or really important famous people, important people in time and stuff in history. So that's interesting. I never put that together until just this second when I was saying that to you. That makes a lot of sense. That's interesting, because I was thinking about that. I was like, I kind of sometimes feel like that. Anyway, I'm sorry. There's just a lot going on in this noggin. So I just wanted to kind of touch base with you guys in the shadow that, there's a lot of things that are happening, a lot of breakthroughs, a lot of changes, transformation. It's no mistake that we're in the year of the dragon, where it's like all these wonderful things are happening, and we're getting a new, president, thank goddess. And we need that. We need to bring the balance back in. I thought about it, and, you know, 200 and what, 40, 50 years or something, and we've never had a female president. It's time. Also, I love that our country has become this beautiful mishmash of people, which is what we always wanted it to be. Not another place for the monarchy to take over and rule. So, very interesting. Um, Although, I just had a weird break there. Wouldn't that be interesting if that's why they had Meghan and Harry and their family like pluck roots here? I never put that together till right this second. But that's interesting. But you could look at that both ways, right? In shadow and in light, why that happened. So much is happening. Also, I see so many things happening. The monarchy is about to blow up in England because a lot of things are going to happen. There's going to be some odd, sudden deaths. There's going to be like some changes. Like, I've just been seeing a lot of shit that's going to happen around the world. Anyway, it's exciting though. It's exciting. Just remember, everything has to get worse before it gets better, but it will. It will get better because we're in the year of the dragon, so it's the year of like exciting whatever, but then right after that we're going to be in the year of the snake, which is about shedding your skin and new beginnings. There's a lot of things with the snake as well, but it's kind of like the dragon with the infinity, you know? So, I wanted to sit like this, but my back is kind of hurting. It's an odd way to sit. So, anyway, just go through it. Don't ignore it. Keep it going. Um, Find a distraction if you can. Like, find a distraction. I think that would really help if you found a distraction, which leads me to the good part of this video. So, it's like we're talking about shadow, we're talking about light. So, I don't want to say too much, but I will say this, that Alder and I have both been like called to certain things and then, not called to things and called to things and not called to things. I'm being kind of cryptic right now. But in real time, we've been called to these work trade situations and they seem good. And then like we're almost like going to sign on the dotted line and like something will come out from one side or the other. And we're like, oh yeah, no, that's not going to work. And so recently, I could tell you now because it's done. We had one that we were like, holy shit, like, I think this may be it. Like I even had a moment where I was like, what do you think? Like, do you think this is it? Like, do you think we're going to move in? And so we found this place. It's kind of famous, so I don't want to say the name of it because it's easy to find and follow, and I don't feel like at this time I want to share anything about it, but I feel like when it's time, I will share more about it. But basically it is, I'll just say a tree farm. I'll just keep it a generic like tree farm. But we found this really cool magical tree farm and we were really drawn to it, and the owners were really drawn to us, and we had this really great experience to the point that we did like a working interview. We all worked really good together, like everything was great, and it was a work trade. It was a straight trade for a house. Oh my gosh, magical, dreamy, 18 acres, backed up into like what do they call them? The lands that are like, you can't touch them, you can't live on them, you can't, So, I mean, we could hike there or whatever, but super magical. There were so many like big, like magical slugs of all different kinds there. Like you could see like, so like, they leave the magic trail. It's like the whole place was like old growth trees, just like magical, magical, magical. It was just really, really neat. And we loved it. And everything was wonderful, and we went and looked at the house. The house was perfect because it was up enough off the road that you couldn't see us through the trees. Like you can kind of see there's a house there, but you wouldn't be able to see us, And on the other side of the road was a few houses, but then water. So we'd be like right on the sound, on salt water. and the house was raised above an old barn. Super cute, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, big tub, like big soaking tub. Like I was like, oh my gosh. But there were things about it we didn't love. I do not like to cook with electric heat. I do not like electric baseboard heating. Um, they had a stove. We thought it was a wood stove, found out it was a pellet stove, which we're not into that either. It was just like all these little things. But there was this massive tree and had a swing on it. And I was like, look, babe, I'm like, I've always wanted an old, a swing on an old tree. A tree that, like, it doesn't even, like, my weight in the rope doesn't even bother them. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of thing, where the tree's like, sure, you can swing on me, you know? Um, it was that. It was like that kind of magical place. Um, but there were just things we didn't love. There were some things about it I think Bubba would have loved. Some things about it she wouldn't. It had this really cool outdoor mudroom. It wasn't a full room, but it was like, you know, to go above the barn, you'd have to take stairs. And when you got to the top of the stairs, it was like enclosed. Not with a door, but just like so you can at least like not bring outside in. And we could definitely like put a coat rack out there and, you know, a nice rug and everything. And we could even like make like a, you know, something. We had all these ideas. It had pitched ceilings, like really high pitched ceilings, big windows, just beautiful. Like everywhere you looked outside, you felt like you were in the trees. Like it felt like, you know, like you're in a tree house, you know. It was really cool. But it wasn't the right, it didn't feel 100% right. And I loved them. Like I loved the couple. Like I loved them. They literally look like a gnome couple. I mean, when we first pulled up, I'm like, oh my God, dude. I'm like, he looks like a little gnome. He's like, I know. And at one point, like, I like saw a bunch of gnome stuff and I said, is it okay for me to say that you look like a gnome? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, no, you really do. And then I met his wife and I'm like, oh my gosh. It was like, if you've ever seen The Princess Bride, it was like the little witch couple. It was like that. I was like, holy shit, where they kind of look like each other a little bit. And they were like childhood sweethearts too, which broke up and like had families and got married and then like found each other later in life. So it was kind of cool. Super neat, really cool couple, cool people. But interesting that they were both old. They both were ministers before. So that was really interesting too. And so we had some really cool conversations. I told Alder, I said, I don't think we're going to get it. And he's like, why? And I go, I'm like, I'm too big of a mirror. I'm like, I don't know if that would, I think that they like us and they like our company and that we're hard workers. But I'm like, I think I would be too much of a mirror at times, and I'm not gonna like not be myself to make other people feel comfortable. I've done that my whole life, and I'm like, you know, and it was funny because in the working interview, you know, you talk to each other or whatever, and I had said that at one point about my mom, and because we were talking about stuff and she was asking me about my family and I was like, oh, my mom just passed. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Or she goes, oh, and I said, yeah, like 2 weeks ago. She was like, oh my gosh. She's like, I'm so sorry, you know, because I just don't look at things the same way, you know. So, and I've at that point, you know, of course I grieved my mom. I mean, Spirit had me record me grieving my mother and they had me upload them to my channels. I don't know if you will ever see them. I don't know if they're just for me. I don't know. Maybe they're for someone else to help them sometime, but it was like a guttural grief. So I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, I did go through it, but now I'm at a place where I pass through things really quickly. I don't hold on to them anymore, you know, especially now because my mom's so powerful and she's with me. So, you know, I see her in me. I see her like, you know, I mean, I see her in my hands, you know what I mean? Like, same with my father. It's like, I see them both. If I have too much salt, like I had last night, I had popcorn, you know, and sleep on the couch. It's like, I'm like, whoa, hi, Dad. My dad had more of a full face. I see myself like that anyway. And so, there were little tells, you know, of where I was like, I don't know if we're going to get this, you know. However, they were like, no, you're in the running. Like, you know, you're going to stay in the running kind of thing. Cause like when we were wrapping things up after we went and looked at the house and everything, we talked about everything. They said, you know, okay, well, we'll see you. And I said, well, like, will we hear from you? And he's like, oh, absolutely. He's like, no matter what happens, he's like, I'll let you know. And we were like, okay. I'm like, that's cool. So, like, a week went by, we didn't hear anything. Other things were presented to us, and another week went by, and we found this really cool property in the area we really wanted to live in a long time ago. It was like deep, in the woods, like, or I should say, it was up against like the Olympic Mountains. There was like literally nothing behind us, so it would be so fun, like something we can really turn into something magical. However, when we got there, it wasn't as magical as we thought. And that's what happens. People tell you one thing and they're right, but they don't tell you the other stuff. It's like, oh, go look at it, go look at it. And I mean, if they had told me like just a few of the things that we saw right away, I wouldn't have even bothered to go and look at it. But it was okay. I felt like we needed to go look at it. We needed to go see it, And so that's what we've been doing. We've been looking at properties because we decided that even though we're still married. I mean, we're technically separated, but we're not separated like we want a divorce right away. It's like we're separated because we're trying to like figure our own shit out, and we're hopeful that we will resume our relationship. But if we don't, we're also open to, as Gwyneth Paltrow put out into the world, conscious uncoupling, which is where you're like, you still love each other and you're friends. You don't have to fight, you don't have to be angry. He and I had some really great conversations where I was like, I just didn't want to feel fear. And he's like, I got you, like, no worries. He's like, whatever you want to do. He's like, I'm not going anywhere until I know you're okay. So that put me at ease. So we just kept looking, and I let my landlord know like what was going on, and long story short, um, the day we went and looked at that property was exactly 2 weeks that we went and did the work trade, which, by the way, we worked there all day and it was like dreamy. The energy there was so magical that I was like, I could work here. Like, I'm like, I could literally like work here. He's like, I could too. He's like, there's something about that place. I mean, they definitely are magical people, they're very angelic, and the property and all that. Although there were two other major things. So there were things about the house that I didn't love, but big deal. Like, we could have changed it, whatever. It was worth the house. You know what I mean? Like, it was worth, like, I was like, we don't ever have to run the pellet stove. I'm like, I could put candles in there, and like, it could be cute. Like, I'm like, I can make that, like, me. It's like, I'm like, I can make it cute, but the other two things that I was not a fan of is he did use one chemical, and I mean, I could use gloves and stuff and wear a mask, but I just didn't really want to be around that. He did use one chemical because he's like, there are certain things around here. And then I watched him step on a big, beautiful, juicy slug, and I was like, I like, my heart like just, and he's like, I'm sorry, I don't like to kill them either. He's like, but they love these trees. Like, he's like, it's not, I'm so sorry. Like, but he was so genuinely like, he understood that I was an empath. He understood like that I was so sensitive, and I could tell he was genuine. He wasn't like, sorry, I'm gonna kill it, like fruitcake, because I have like had that kind of like energy put at me before when I got upset when people killed bugs or killed spiders or things like that. But it was a cool moment. That's when I was like, okay, well, I understand what he's saying. But then I kept finding them around the property, and I was picking up, going, run away, you're gonna die here. I'm like, get out of here. I was like, go back to the forest. Seriously, I wasn't even kidding. I was like picking them up and like bringing them as far away as I could. Because the other thing was, they lived at the very top. It was on like they were on like 18 acres up a hill, and they were at the top of the hill and we were at the bottom. So that was nice too. Like, we couldn't even see each other's houses. Like, there were different roads. Like, you'd have to go down another road just to get to our house, and it was the only road that went to our house. So like, there's no reason for everyone to be there. Like, we can even put up like a gate or something, like if people came there, because it was a nursery. It was like a tree nursery. So people, go on the property and stuff, and they have events, and so it's like we could put up like, I mean, there were so many good things about it, and I loved working there. I can't emphasize that enough. It was a dreamy experience, and they paid us really well. Like, when he like showed me what they paid us for the day, I'm like, oh my gosh. So at the end, they were like, no matter what happens, would you guys be open to coming back here and working with us again? Because we really enjoyed working with both of you. And we were like, yeah, absolutely. So getting back to, 2 weeks to the day, and we went and looked at this other property that was magical, but just not what we needed or what we were looking for. And I said, I'm messaging them. And he's like, no, he said that he's gonna let us know either way. And I said, you know what? I'm like, he may do that. I'm like, but we did tell him that we weren't on a certain time frame. I'm like, but we need to know. I'm like, because I said we need to tell our landlord. You know what I mean? He's been so cool with us and so respectful. I'm like, we need to be respectful of him. You know, I'm like, at this point, I would probably still even pay October. I'm like, because that's, you know, if he couldn't find someone, because that wouldn't feel right, you know. So I texted them and just said, you know, basically what I said to you, and we didn't hear from them all day, all the rest of the day. And then the next day, Alder and I were out running errands, and we were doing chores and stuff because he was leaving. He was going on a work thing, and he was going to be gone again for like another week or so. That's what's basically been happening. We've just been coming back together like when we need stuff or we need to do chores around the property, and then just trying to stay as loving and civil and friends, because we are friends, we are best friends, you know. So just like trying to, like, you know, and then figuring, see how everything else like works itself out. And anyway, while we were together, we got their message, and they went with someone else, which is exactly what I told him. I said, he's like, you know, he was holding hope, and I said, I know you're holding hope. And he's like, I just feel like we're, you know. And I said, I feel like we're going to work with them again. I'm like, but I don't feel like we're going to live there. I'm like, I don't think they want us to live there. So um, it was interesting because we were both right. So in the message, they said they loved working with us. They would welcome us to work with them again, which I totally feel like we would, because we all worked so well together. We did a really big job really quickly. I think they were just so excited. And in fact, I was like, dude, they gave us more than we agreed on. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I think because they were just happy we did a good job. And I was like, okay. Um, so we, either way, we made a really cool connection. I even said, like, to Spirit last night, I was like, they were telling me how neither one of their families are remotely interested in their property. And, you know, they're elders, you know. And I said to Alder, I was like, wouldn't that be weird if we were meant to come here because if we're meant to buy this? It's so magical, you guys. It's so freaking magical. It's so freaking magical. It's so freaking magical. Like, I can't even, you know, I love to use the fuck word, but I want to say frickin'. Oh, 32, 33, 369. Oh, that's 11. That's interesting. I don't know. Or maybe we're meant to connect somebody with their property. I don't know. But I thought that is very, 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 very interesting, because I feel like he won't be able to live, like, or he won't be able to die, excuse me. I feel like he won't be able to die unless he knows for sure that it's being cared for and taken care of, because it's been like his life's work. And that's a big deal. You know, when you give so much to something and nobody wants it, you know, that's hard. I mean, you know, I thought about that with my parents' cabin. Like, I'm like, I really hope that my family members, like, don't take the money, that they just use it as like a vacation home for all of them, because there's so many of them. I have so many siblings, and like siblings that are my blood and bone, and my step siblings, and they have children, and their children are having children. You know, like, for me, I'm like, I really hope they keep it in the family. That is my wish. But also, it's far away from where they all live, so I can understand if they don't. But I was thinking about that. I was like, you know, I'm like, man, I really hope that that happens, just because I, all of us watch them put their life into building it, and it's so magical and beautiful. I'm not happy with the area, but I feel like eventually even that will die out, like the hate, because where my parents' retirement home is very, very racist, like very racist. Like, there's Confederate flags everywhere. It's known there. It's like known that like a lot of the KKK live in that area. So, you know, but hopefully love will tarnish and banish that hate, and bring, because it's a beautiful area. It's really sad. It's really sad, actually, because it's like, I'm sure before the white man came in and brought hate there, I'm quite sure that the Native Americans probably really enjoyed it. It's so gorgeous and so beautiful that it's almost sad that there's so much hate there. You know what I mean? Um, but I digress from that. So back to our story, and that I think for now, Alder and I are not meant to be anywhere in particular. I feel like we are meant to be where we are meant to be on a daily basis, whatever that means. So, drum roll, please. As much as I'm not a huge fan of the tiny home that we're in, this 35-foot RV, um, I sent a message out to Spirit and said, okay, if we are, oh, so this is the interesting thing. This is the other interesting thing. I forgot to mention this part. So last week, before we heard uh, back from the work trade, and before we went and looked at that property, I said, if you really want us to keep this and live in it, and whatever, whether on this property or another property or whatever, I'm like, send me a sign of some kind, because I've lived in this area for so long that I know that in real time it's September 24th, but in 5 to 6 weeks the weather is going to flip here so fast, and I can just feel it. And we had such a dry winter last year that they're calling for like a lot of rain this year. So I'm like, I don't want to be concerned about this or that. I'm like, I want to get this shit done now. And I thought no matter what we do, it'll still elevate like the price of this. So so that was last week. And then Alder shows up here, and he's like, hey, I'm going to be in that area because I'm doing a job for a regular client of his, one that he really loves, which funnily enough, their name is Kelly. Love it. And he hasn't spoken to them in quite some time. They had a horrible fire and on their property, and lost a lot of vehicles and part of their house. It was like really horrible. So Alder didn't hear from him for a really long time. And then he gravitated back into our orbit. Alder was over there working on one of his vehicles, and he asked him like, hey, where are you living now? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And he, told him, he's like, oh, same thing. Like, we interviewed for this work trade, haven't heard back. We're going to look at this one property, but I'm not sure what we're going to do with the RV and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, but we have been thinking about if we keep the RV that, we're going to have to do some changes to it. And he said, hey, do you need a wood stove? I was literally looking at wood stoves the night before, the tiny ones that because I've been looking at tiny home rebuilds for years, and like, is that what we really want to do? Do we want to continue doing that? Blah, 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 blah. The thing is, the reason why we didn't want to keep this one, it wasn't that we didn't love it. I mean, the boxiness is awesome because it gives you like more like headspace, which Alder's 6'2", so it's better, and just makes you feel like, oh, you can breathe and stretch your arms out, But it was that when we had Big Camper, when we started gutting her, she was so beautiful underneath that we just figured, since this one was only like 6 or 7 years older, we thought if anything it would be better. But Big Camper was from the 70s, 77, 78, and when we ripped the walls out, it was like old school, like pink, what do you call it? Insulation, but behind it was the shell, and it was clean as a baby's bottom. It wasn't taped in, or it wasn't glued in, nothing. It was just unbelievable. It was actually kind of unbelievable that I was like, oh my gosh. And so we were excited because we're like, I bet the rest of it's like this. Even the water damage area, I'm like, the only thing that's probably gonna have water damage, the metal won't. It may be stained, but it won't, hold the mold. So we were really excited. So we figured that this one, being newer, more modern, oh no, this one, the one that we had was a Ford, and it was a really good quality. It was well made. The one that we have is, we researched it because we couldn't find a lot of these, and I found out why. Because they're cheap and shitty, and they're built cheap and shitty. So when we started pulling the walls out here, there was no insulation, and they were glued. and they were like, oh, like it was just so much work that when we saw it, just like the one wall, I'm like, I mean, I was like, this is, we would have to rip everything out. And we realized it was going to be a massive, massive chore. So when we saw that, we were like, nah, nope. And all summer we decided, well, let's just put our, set our intentions and our manifestations towards renting, a home. And, we've been meeting all these different people up here who we're finding a lot of the homes up here are recommended. Like someone will be like, oh, hey, I have a friend, and that's how it works. They're really nice homes because there's a lot of wealthy people that have homes up here that are snowbirds. Like they go down south for the winter and they're always looking for people. So I'm like, let's put something out there. We always have really good fortune in that way. And so we put, with all of his people, my people, I started putting in ads. My ads were getting flagged. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not saying anything in there, I did say cannabis friendly, I think, or 420 friendly or something, but I see that on other things. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I said, maybe they just don't want us to do it now. I don't get upset anymore. I just go, okay, divine timing, divine timing, divine timing. So then about a month ago, maybe a little longer ago, maybe 2 months ago, our landlord shows up with a bus, a really beautiful old school Bluebird bus, more like this, like the rectangle one, right? Oh my gosh, we fell in love with it. It had 3 different doors. It had storage underneath. We started researching all these like schooly makeovers, and I'm like, holy shit, that's what we're meant to do, No. Alder went away for the summer. I was here by myself for the summer. He was working on himself. I've been working on myself, which, by the way, officially welcome fall. And I don't know. It was like one day our landlord showed up and he was like, hey, I'm picking up the schoolie, blah, blah, blah. So then that was out of the equation again. And I'm like, this is so interesting. So then I kind of looked around this place, and lately I've been really making it my own and moving the things I can move around, the things that I can change and alter, I've been doing. And then Alder, like that, before he went to Kelly's, he and I had a discussion about it, and I was like, well, maybe we should winterize this. I mean, because I said to Spirit, if you put your intentions and your energy towards something, then you're telling the universe that's what you want. But I wasn't putting my energy towards this. That's why I was like, what's happening? But then the second I even diverted my energy towards this a little bit, and I said to Spirit, send me a sign, all these little things started to align. All these little things. And I was like, oh my gosh. So when he's like, I have a present, and I'm like, what? And he like brings it out. I'm like, number one, it's so cute. I love it. I've been looking at little vintage stoves. I've been looking at like the newer ones, the wood burning stoves. Like I've been looking at them, we're 35 by 10, so it's like, you don't want anything to like overpower you so much where you're like, oh, like you can't breathe, you're so hot, you have to keep the windows open all winter, which isn't a horrible thing. I like the fresh air too. But also like fire hazards, things like that. This is not exactly, it's all old plywood. It's like it would go up like a Roman candle, right? You have to be really careful of like what you put in here. It's like 17 inches. You know what I mean? That it's got feet. Oh my gosh, it's the cutest thing. And it's wrought iron, which is what we wanted, or cast iron, excuse me. It has one teeny tiny repair, which is so fixable, and it's like all we have to do is like do this little repair and clean it up, and it'll be good to go. And we've already ripped out the kitchen and the living room. We did that. Well, he did most of the work. I can't say I did it. I was only here the one day, then he did the rest of it. We did it in the spring. But I thought if we were meant to keep this, that we would do this all summer. But you guys know, for those of you who've been following me for a long time, like, I don't want to say the cabin was a debacle, but I feel like I was keeping you guys posted while we were going along. Looking back on it, I know now why, because I didn't want to tell you guys a lot of things because I do feel like doth do protest too much. Like you don't want to put too much out there, especially with energy and things like that. But now looking back on it, and the way that things, ended with our old landlord and everything, I feel like that was all meant to happen so that it could be shown and documented, like what we were going through, like the hell that we were put through. Um, you know, if anything ever did come out with them and their stuff and whatever, because like the way things ended were so sad and awful, and it was like watching a decline of somebody, you know. Nobody wanted to listen to me. I was like, I'm like, I think something's really wrong with him, and I think he has the beginning of dementia, and like nobody wanted to listen to me. And then towards the end I was like, I really do think that's what was happening to him, because his family would be like, oh no, he was always like that. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. It was just like very interesting to watch him. It was almost like he was like flipping characters. So I'm like, I don't know, but I don't want to get too much into that. Talk about shadow, um, and eclipse season. But I realized that that was such a learning lesson for us. We learned so much. And when we moved out of here and into the cabin, the first month we were in the cabin, I enjoyed it just because it was like my birthday and Christmas and all that. But then by January, and after I took all the decorations and everything down, it felt very wrong. Like I was like, I don't feel like we're supposed to be in here. And then when he said like, you have to move out, I'm moving away and I'm selling it, blah blah blah, and it's just like it's like we had to change when the wind blew, his mind changed this way and then that way, and like we had to just keep up, and it was like whiplash. And I feel like we spent that time working on this so that we can move into it, so it was livable enough, for us to live in it. But we never finished the kitchen. And so we ended up putting the sink outside and the stove outside, and so all summer it was like that. But I kind of enjoyed it because I was outside most of the summer anyway, so it was kind of nice. But now that it's getting colder and it's getting rainy, I was like, what are we going to do? So when he came home with the wood stove, I was like, all right, spirit, like, uncle, I call uncle, right? Twist my arm. I'm like, all right, I get it. You want us to keep this? Then we will. And I'm like, then I'll make it like the coolest, most fun, place ever. But yeah, that was it for me. When the wood stove came, I looked at him and I go, so I guess we're going to live in here this winter. I said, are you going to live in here? And he's like, I think he really wants to be on his own for a while. And I don't know how long that's going to be, but he needs a home base, I'm like, I go, that's cool. I'm like, to be honest, I like it too. I've really been enjoying my alone time and working. I feel like I've been getting so much more done. I like that I can play my music when I want to play, when I want to play piano, I play piano. When I want to sing, I want to sing. I don't have to worry about waking him up, or that has been really, really nice. We kept trying to get a big house for that. Like the place that we almost got with the work trade, it was a really big house. I mean, for us, not big, like, oh my gosh. It was like a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, because the bedrooms were like right across from each other. But the bedrooms were far enough away from like where I would want to have like my studio. I would have had it in the far corner where I was like, wow, we can almost even put in another door or like a fabric or something in the hallway, where it would be far enough away he wouldn't hear that. He's a really heavy sleeper, Same for me, like where if he wanted to get up in the morning and have his meditation music on and have his tea, I could sleep and wouldn't hear him. So there were definitely things that we could have done. But all of a sudden it was like everything just started to fall into place. Everything. Because the one thing that I hate the most in here, I can put up with everything else. I can deal with everything else. Like we can make the repairs. We can do I treated this place for mold when we first moved into it. I cleaned it really well and treated it as best I could. And then over time, I've been, doing stuff, and I use so much fresh lavender and peppermint and frankincense and like all these and oregano, these anti-fungal things that we've actually chased a lot of that back. We've worked with the critter maintenance. We've, you know what I mean? Like we've done all that. So now it's at the point where, yeah, I mean, I definitely want to I would rather gut it completely, but it's such a massive task that we're not going to do that in 4 to 6 weeks. And I said to him, there's no way I am doing a remodel I mean, Mercury's gone direct and all that, but still, I'm not going to do a remodel during eclipse season. I'm just not going to do it because, either one of us have one bad moment, one bad day that can like turn into something really ugly. So I said, let's do it in October. October is always such a, yummy, witchy month. I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's really sparks off like the energy of the holiday season. So I'm really excited. Not only that, but I finally found a place in here where I could put a Christmas tree. I'm so excited for that. So excited for that. And I know that when it's time, Spirit will call us to either get a fake one or bring us to a place where the tree is, on its last leg, or whatever, and or wants to give its life to us so that we can have it, and then we can, Alder says there's a way you can replant them, but I don't know if that's true. If we can do that, then I will do that. But anyway, I digress. But the one thing in here that has to be done, that there's like, it has to be done, is the bathroom. It is so gross. We have been off grid with it for, 2 years, and I know how to fix it. Like I just started to see these things and I was like, okay, this is what we need to do. So now that I was like, okay, let's at least do this. So we're going to do another partial remodel this fall. So either we'll keep remodeling it and this will be our rig, you know what I mean? And someday we'll be like, oh my gosh, we almost sold her, or we're gonna at least get her to a point where like she'll be sellable, or at least the next person won't have to deal with all those problems and those things. But who knew, like, because the cool thing is, because it's an RV, it's just the tank. It's the poop tank, right? So we just have to cover it because we're gonna pull out what we're gonna pull out, and then we're gonna redo the floors in this one area, and then we're going to go to a composting toilet, which is what I've wanted to do forever. So I'm really excited, and stay tuned for the big reveal. I'm definitely going to do some video with that, like a before and after kind of thing, at some point, because it's going to be really cute. And I'm excited to, as I look over there, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. And, that was the other thing too. So about 2 weeks ago, one of my guilty pleasures is to look at Craigslist free, because in the area that we live in, oh my gosh, from Seattle to Port Angeles to down to Olympia, seriously, there's just the things that people give away for free are unbelievable. Almost all of the really beautiful furniture we ever got was for free. And then some things we did pay money for, but the funny thing is the people that we paid money for were people who needed it. And it was a cool piece of furniture, and we still got a good deal on it, So I'm excited to see what's going to happen, because this one piece of furniture that we have, I thought was going to stay in the kitchen, is now going to go into this other area. So I'm excited. And about 2 weeks ago, I was really called to look at the Craigslist free, and this woman had just posted, who's now become like my buddy. We were on the phone for hours. She's so awesome. But she posted this really cool vanity with this magical mirror. And it, like, I've never seen anything like it. It's vintage, but the bottom almost looks like a spider web. It's so fucking cool. Anyway, the vanity is not going to go in here. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that yet, but the mirror is meant to come in here. And so I'm excited to put that together. I was like, and there's been spiders everywhere, in here, outside. I know it's spider season, but still, you guys know, like, that's like one of my spirit animals is a spider. So I was like, she even said, she's like, I don't care, like, whatever. She's like, what happens to the, furniture or whatever. She's like, she's like, I couldn't throw it away. She's like, the mirror is so awesome. And we were going to redo it because it was in way worse shape than I realized. But it was free, so I don't care. But then when we started pulling the drawers out, there was so much mold inside. I don't even know if she knew, and I didn't want to tell her. I didn't want to be like, did you know how much mold is inside? It's just really, it's in bad shape. And just because I've been like working with furniture and restoring vintage furniture for so long, I can tell that other people actually restored it and did things with it. And so I feel like it wants to go, like I feel like it's like, burn me, I'm done. Like, I don't want to be furniture anymore, like it's an old waterfall. But the mirror, oh my God, the mirror's in mint condition. Mint condition. Like, it's amazing. Wait till you see it. It's so cool. I have it all wrapped up and packed away right now, but it's so heavy. So yeah, so that's exciting, and yeah, I'm just excited. And we're gonna, finally be able to do the shower, which we're gonna do portable, because we're off grid, but we're gonna, work with that. And we found out recently that the QFC by our house is 50 cents a gallon. So we're like, okay, because we try to source our water as free as we can. But when you get to a certain time of year, it's really hard to source your water for free. It's too cold, or it's not as accessible. The campgrounds, like, they close all the water things, like they're done by the end of October usually. And so I was like, okay, so we know we got 6 months to pay for water and do all that. And so I was like, well, 50 cents a gallon, we figured it out. And I was like, okay, I was like, okay, that's pricey, but it's okay. We'll make it work. And then we're at the co-op the other day, and the co-op was only 29 cents a gallon. I was like, oh my gosh. And it's drinking water, but we'll use it for like showers and dishes and stuff like that. But I was like, 29 cents a gallon? I'm like, that's cray cray. I was like, that's crazy. I'm like, maybe we should start drinking it and see if we like it, because we get our water delivered from, the Olympic Springs, the Olympic Mountains. Anyway, I'm rambling, but so it's exciting. Oh, and I looked up, it was 56.44. What's that? So it's 10, 19. Ooh, that's 19, right? So 9 and 1 is 10 completion. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up, because basically, no matter what happens, we'll always have this home, and we'll always have it on wheels. Like, the engine on this is really good. The tires on this, they're decent. Like, we don't need to buy new tires just yet. But it's nice to know that we have it. And even though I really wanted to go into a house, it's because we didn't want to remodel it. And I was like, how are we going to make this work? That's what it was. It was like, how are we going to make this work? And then all of a sudden the wood stove came into our lives. And the cool thing is that there's this one area of the motorhome that's kind of like the brains of the operation kind of thing, and it's like so much to take it apart that Alder's like, I'd have to rebuild the floors. He was like telling me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like he was like showing me, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm like, that's not cool. So it came to me the other day. I opened the closet to it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is where we're gonna put the wood stove. I'm like, of course. It's all metal. It's all metal. It's all covered. It's already done. It'll fit on there. Like, I was like, we'll have to put something on top of it, to stabilize it. Like, I was thinking, and then we'll tile it and all that, we'll, fireproof it and all that good stuff. But I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this is so genius. He didn't rip it out. I was pissed that he didn't rip it out when he ripped out the other stuff. He's like, babe, like, look, he's like, it's a big deal. And we needed to just move into this. We didn't have much time at the time. So now it makes sense. He wasn't supposed to. We've both been using, he's always been incredibly gifted seer, but lately, like, we've both been seeing things. And that's what I realized. Like, he was born on a Sunday. I was born on a Monday, right? Sunday, sun, moon. I mean, everything. He's Gemini. I'm Sagittarius. We're like, we go back and forth. I mean, the only thing that we have in common is that we were both born in the morning. That's about the only thing we have in common. And around the same time. He was born when the sun was coming up, and I was born at 7:02 a.m. I always forgot to look. I need to look and see when the sun rose. His mom used to say, I don't remember what time it was. She said, I just remember that she was giving birth, and when she looked out the window, because the hospital where she gave birth to him in Seattle, like, the mountains are there, and she saw the sun coming up over the mountain. She's like, he was born when the sun came up. So, like, that's so cool. So, and I know I was born at 7:02 a.m. It's on my birth certificate. But that's about it. I mean, everything else, we really do, like, complement each other. So, like, he was right. Like, they did want to work with us. And I was right that they didn't want us to live there. And I don't think it was personal. They had, like, an old employee that wanted to come back. And he didn't want him to come back, but she wanted him to come back. He wanted us to live in the apartment. He wanted him to work there, but he didn't want him to live in the apartment. It was like this whole thing. And I said to Alder, and I said, well, I have a feeling she's going to win that argument. So I'm like, I have a feeling he's going to live there. Plus, sometimes you just want somebody who already knows, like somebody who you're familiar with. So we'll see what happens. Or we're meant to redo this and we will end up moving in there. Because maybe they will realize that they don't want them there. That just came to me right this second. I don't know. That's interesting. But that would be cool then, because then this would be ready. And then he could take this, around, or we could leave this here and then like kind of live here and live there. That's interesting. That just came up. Wow, 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 wow. That's so interesting. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens. If not, it's nice to know that we have this. And to be fair, all summer, I mean, I was putting things out there, putting ads out there. I was like, I'm open to roommates, if it feels right. I've had a few discussions with people, and almost, one place in Seattle, I was like, maybe I'll live in Seattle. I've never lived there. It was so cute. It was like total LGBTQ friendly. I would have been like the only straight person, but like, I think I would have been like perfect for that. You know what I mean? Like, and it was this big house and everybody was over the age of 40. And I was like, oh my God, we'd probably have so much fun. But they were okay with Bubba, but they had another cat. So I was a little concerned with that. I was like, I don't know if Bubba would like that, but I thought that might be kind of fun. The last time I did a roommate thing, I was going through another transformation when I was 39, turning 40. And had roommates. So I thought, well, maybe that's what I'm meant to do. But no, I mean, I realized like I can't just live in an apartment. I can't, because of my sensitivity issues and because of like I'm working on something major. Like my music and my songwriting, like that is really, I don't know if it's just meant to change the world through me doing it and no one will ever see it and it's changing me, or I'm actually going to put my music out into the universe and it's going to change people. I don't know. I mean, kind of reminds me of Bill and Ted's, Excellent Adventure, where they're not really sure, like, sorry, I keep moving around, where they're not really sure, I'm balancing it on my knee. They're like, what do you mean we're going to change the world, So I don't know, but I definitely feel like I'm not done living in here. And the truth is, when I'm in here, it does feel like home. So we just have to do a few things and make some minor adjustments and to at least get us through the winter. I think if we can just do that and get through the winter, it will be so wonderful. And then we will figure it out, and either we're meant to stay here and whatever, or we'll move on, or I don't know. I don't know, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see what it's going to be, and that's pretty much it. It's interesting as well that there are certain things that I'm like, I don't know why that's there, and then you'll go to move it and you're like, oh, that's why that's there. Right. So unless we literally like gutted this down to a shell, I mean, things like the brake lights, you know what I mean? Like those cords need to be there because they're on the brake lights. If we're going to drive this, it's like, that's what I said to him. I go, if I knew that it was just going to be a shell, we could tear all this shit out and like really build it from scratch, and use the frame and whatever. But if we were going to do that, we would use a stronger frame. The frame on this is not very strong. The inner frame is what's strong. The outer frame is like not. And that's why we were like with the bus, it was like heavy metal, you know what I mean? Like it's not going to move. The one side where we took the wall out, when we were like, one of us, I don't remember what happened, but one of us was leaning on it or something, and we saw it like kind of go in, and I was like, yeah, that's not good. He's like, yeah, that's why those wood walls, that's why the what do you call it, the plywood is in place to keep it there, and the beams, and you know what I mean, like you kind of have to keep that there. But it's funny because this right here, as you can see, like this is the passenger seat is behind there, and that's the driver's seat. So like we're not in big camper, like he took all of that apart. When we knew we were going to be there for a few years, he took all of that apart. And we used it as like another room. And so I'm like, So I'm going to have him look at that. If he can't, though, I'm okay with that, because the truth is we don't really need that side. Where with Big Camper, it was so small. Like we needed it. Like we needed him to do that because I needed a workspace and I couldn't find a desk or anything. Like he was going to build something in. And I was like, yeah, but it's still going to be kind of annoying, So we just took it out because we knew we were going to be there for at least another, 6 months or whatever. And we ended up staying there for like 5 years. So I'm glad we did that. But with this one, all I want to do is take that seat out because I love my keyboard and I want to play it all the time. But it is one of the things that's detracting me. Is that the word? That's making me not want to do it is because I have to. It's stored and I have to take it out and put it together. And it's not that big of a deal. It literally takes me like a minute to set it up. It's just that sometimes I want to play and then I want to go do something else and then come back and play. And sometimes and where it's like I only have is this tiny couch that we're on that we built. You know what I mean? So if I put it on there and I have my chair over there, it's like, so I'm like, no, I need to have it. So I have a feeling I'm going to put it back there. And I just need enough space to put it there. So I have the stand for it. I have my cute little seat. I've got everything that I need. And the same with like the bathroom and all that. It's like once we can like knock all that out, and the cool thing is the wood stove is in such a perfect fucking location. Like it's so perfect, it's ridiculous. Like it's almost exactly in the middle, which is what we need, right? Because we want the heat to kind of go both ways. But because it's small, it's not going to heat this whole place up when it's like 11 degrees, right? So so we still have, you know, our propane heater. We're actually thinking about getting another heater, just so, you know. But the propane heater is great because we can put the little bottles on, and if we're only like using it in spurts, like we can move it around. So like if I want to play the piano, I can just like bring it over here, or if I want to, you know what I mean, and vice versa and all that. Because right now we keep the heater on 5 gallon propane tank. I think that's what it is, or 20 gallon. I don't know. But anyway, we keep that on in here so that we can just have the heat on. I don't have to like drag it around or keep changing the thing, especially in the winter when you have it going 24/7. You know, you don't want to keep changing the bottles every few hours. It's really annoying. So we just, you know, hook it up to a line on the propane. But the downside of propane where we live, if you live in somewhere that's really dry, like in the south, like, you know, in the desert, propane's great because it brings moisture and it'll keep it nice and take out that dry air. But we're in the Pacific Northwest where it's already really, really wet. And having that, it just, over the last 2 years, that's why it got worse in here, the mold. It's just because you try to keep up with it, but it's like every single day I had to wipe off the inside windows. And it would be, I can use like a hand towel on one window and it'd be soaking wet. That's how wet it gets. So I was like, we need to have dry heat, you know. So I'm excited about that, and yeah, there's a lot more surprises. That was the big one, that was the exciting one, but there's a lot more surprises to come. And when it's all done, I will do a walkthrough. I'll have Alder videotape me, and we'll do a walkthrough, and I'll show you like what we did and what we're still gonna do, if we're gonna keep it, and go from there. And I don't know if we're gonna stay on this property or if we're gonna go on another property. We're just gonna play it by ear. I haven't really talked to my landlord about it. We've been on this kind of like notion of month to month since it was basically always meant to be a layover for both of us. So, but their plans have changed, and so have ours. So if their plans, if they'll allow us to, we'll probably just stay here for the winter. But if not, if we're called to another way or another, you know, whatever, then I guess we'll do that. All right. Love ya. I don't have anything else to say. This has been going on for an hour. Also, for those of you who follow and subscribe and are part of our Magical Medium tribe, Spirit is calling me to, if you remember when I was on Lula's Labyrinth, and then even when it switched over to the Magical Medium, Spirit had me do links where I would do like one video like this and introduce the readings, and then I would put separate links and have them unlisted. And they had me do that on purpose because I think some people felt more free, like to talk, or they felt, or for, I don't, honestly, there are so many reasons why I think they did it at the time. But now they're having me put them on public. And the way that YouTube works is you have to have 1,000 subscribers and so many minutes watched in order to get monetized. And of course you can always, you know, I have links on my, you know, channels for my Venmo and PayPal. It's mine and Alder's. We share it. We share an account. So that is, you know, of course, always a given. I would prefer that because then we don't have to, you know, pay the middle person, pay YouTube. However, I do like that YouTube has like the thing where you can just gift. Some people don't want to do that. They don't want to like share information. They just want to, whatever, however you want to do it. But I will at least be able to monetize and be able to get sponsors and things like that. But you have to have so many things to receive that. Unfortunately, that's just the way that it works, and the algorithms and all that kind of stuff. So it's very interesting as well. They had me post like, I think 9 or 10 readings last night. In real time, it's the 24th, but yesterday was the 23rd, and I was really called to do it. So I did it, and in like one day, I had like 8 or 9 new subscribers already. There could be more by now, I don't know. But it was really interesting, and I didn't even put hashtags on them. And then today they had me put hashtags on them and had me put like a description, because I was like, well, this is going to be weird. I'm like, I'm talking about another year in a timeline, I'm like, and it looks like it just got posted. I don't want people to feel confused. So then today they had me go back and explain it. But I'm going to be doing this because they only will take from the videos from the last year. So there are some videos that if I don't get them up now, they're not going to count. I don't know why this is. They have all these rules and regulations and whatever. I watch videos to try and get recommendations and to make sure I'm doing it right. But Spirit's like, we got you. You're in divine timing. They're like, just wait. They're like, just wait. So we're about to blow up, and I can feel it. I can really feel it. So with that being said, it doesn't surprise me that they want me to spend more time alone. They want Alda to spend more time alone so that we can really work on our individual gifts and our strengths, because I'm becoming more and more like me, like my things, and I need my own space. When he and I met, I was living in a studio apartment, and we basically went from our first date to like 3 days later, he was basically living with me. He still had his, he was still living out of his truck and all that stuff, but, and he liked that. When I met him, he loved it. He was a mobile mechanic and lived out of his truck. He had a cab, and so he lived out of the back of part of, he had a pickup truck, and he lived out of the back of his cab, and he had his surfboard, and he would, he'd go kayaking, he'd go surfing, he would work when he needed money, or he would go gamble because he was really lucky, which now he realizes he was just really blessed. But when he needed money, he could put down $20 and get $250 in like 10 minutes. He's just that person. So he just lived this very different, very rogue, loner life. And then we came together, and then, we've been pushing and pulling each other for the last almost decade. And now I feel like it's interesting because we've been together for 9.5 years now. And next year will be 10 years, which is really interesting because we were talking about the year of the dragon this year, the good fortune. Next year is the year of the snake, and, shedding our skin, whatever. And then in May, it'll be 10 years that we've known each other, and also his birthday. So it's kind of, that was the other thing too. He goes, isn't that interesting? He's like, you're always 6 months ahead of me. Because that's what he said. He goes, this may happen till next year. And I said, that's okay. Because I'm going to be 53 this year, and in 8 year, 2024 is 8, and I'm going to be 53, 8. Taylor's going to be 35, 8, what? And so is her honey, 8, what? Interesting. It's all happening for a reason. The Divine Feminine is here, baby. She's here. Also, in the shadow, my last few things, they're going to keep coming for us. They want us to fail. Don't let them. If you need a moment to cry or you need a moment to be sad. The other day I was like, oh my gosh, like I started to notice all my wrinkles coming in like really bad. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I'm only 53. I'm like, I'm going to be like the crypt keeper soon. And then I was like, do I really care though? I'm like, I enjoy my life. And I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And I'm like, I like being out in the sun. I do put a homemade sunblock on, but it's like, I don't care. It's like, that's just part of, it's just part of me. I'm getting older. I'm at the beginning of my crone, and maybe I'm meant to have like really deep lines, Whatever's meant to be is meant to be. I feel like I'll always be beautiful. The inner child in me will always shine through, and it's like the rest of it is just window dressing, really. And I've always been good at I used to actually do that for a living, was make windows appealing. So it'll be fine. But yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if things kind of all kind of come together like this, I also just had another epiphany with the year of the snake, but I'll only talk about that if it comes up next year when it is the year of the snake. But if not, then it was just like maybe it's something to do with something else, and I'll leave that there. So, yeah. But just be mindful, of wolves in sheep's clothing right now and people who are trying to sell you a bill of goods, or, you know what I mean? There's a lot of fakery and fuckery out there. So anyway, so I'm going to be putting more videos out there. I've also been recording a lot of videos for this channel, but I will always kind of let you know like that it was previously recorded, so that I put something out today, but I recorded it on Friday the 13th, and I said it was recorded on Friday the 13th, just in case. Sometimes I feel like they want that too, so you can go back and be like, oh my gosh, I was going through that too, or well, so you can see that we're all aligning. And some of you, we're just a little bit behind each other, like, or we're just a little bit ahead of each other. If I'm not responding to you, I know a lot of you have texted me, emailed me. If I'm not responding to anyone really right now. Honestly, there are like 2 people that are in my orbit right now, and that's about it. 3 technically, and the rest, it's like I'm trying to stay as close to what I need to do right now as possible. And if I'm not talking to you, it's because it's for you to work on yourself right now. It doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean I don't support you or respect you. It just means that from this moment forward, I cannot confirm or deny anything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say for sure, like, I'll be there if I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to say for sure that we'll reconnect in a week or a month or whatever, because I don't know. So I would just say for now, don't plan on me doing anything. Like, if there's something we normally do together, if there's something that I've said that we would do together and I haven't been responding to you, I'm not going to. And it's not because I don't want to, it's just because that's where I'm at. If I don't respond to you, that no response to you means no. If you ask me a question, that means no. And again, doesn't mean forever, but it means right now. So you may want to just make other plans. And I know that I've gotten in the habit with some people of doing things like on a yearly basis, or we do this or we do that. Even some of you, like, I wanted to reach out to you on your birthday and I was told not to. Not personal. It's just like, you're where you need to be, I'm where I need to be. And sometimes when some of you guys talk to me, you take too much of what we say as gospel, so to speak, and it's not. Sometimes it's just like to get you to think. Sometimes it's a metaphor. Sometimes it is that thing. But again, it's something you need to work through. And fall's my favorite time of year. So, I'm going to be working on this. I'm going to be getting myself set up for success for winter, because if the Farmer's Almanac is correct, we need to have everything done in like the next 3 or 4 weeks. Like, we're not going to be able to wait. And so I just don't have the time and the energy like I used to. And I've been recording a lot of things, so that could be why they're having me put readings out as well. So either way, they know what they're doing. I'm going through divine timing. I love you. I know you love me. It's all good, and I'll see you when I see you. Take good care of yourselves and each other. Blessed be. Oh, bye.